Good morning. And we have this morning Democrat candidate for Senator John Ananich, and then we have the minority leader, incumbent Republican Senator Telo Taitague. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sabrina.
Hi.
Jason.
Good morning, Sabrina. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Guam.
Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's
Good
go.
morning, sir.
We're gonna discuss the rules of engagement here, guys. There's no kicking, biting, hair pulling.
No gouging of the eyes.
We're doing, I think those rules need to go to Tello. I'm okay.
Telo will gut you.
No, hey, John, we both own bars in our lifetime, man. So there's no holds bar.
I like that. No holds bar. All right, here we go.
No holds bar.
So the format, Bree, if you could apprise the guests of our format for this segment.
All right. So you guys get 1 minute for your introduction, your opening statement, and then we'll proceed with the questions, and you'll have 2-minute responses. Chris will cut you off if you exceed that time limit, and then you have a 2-minute closing statement to give your final pitch to our listeners and streamers on why they should vote for you. All right.
Great.
Let's get right into it. Opening statements. We'll go with ladies first. Minority Leader Senator Telo Taitague. 1 minute for your open, and your time begins. Hold on, because stopwatch. I do this for a living, guys. Your time begins now, Senator.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Sabrina. Hafaday Guam, I'm Telo Taitague. I'm originally from the beautiful village of Inalahan, Southern girl at heart, and now I'm currently residing in the beautiful village of Timuning. I was a former director of the Women's Bureau, a deputy general manager of the Guam Visitors Bureau. I was a small business owner and currently a senator in the 35th Guam Legislature. And for fun, I greatly enjoy listening to music, particularly with my dad and his collection of jazz music. He's a musician as well. I'm running for re-election to serve in the 36th Guam Legislature, not only because I would like to continue the work I've started, but I think people of Guam want someone, who's not afraid to ask the hard questions or to call out those who lost the people's trust and demand for transparency and accountability. I believe I've proven to be that person.
Thank you, Senator.
You count on. Thank you.
John?
John, your time starts now. You have 1 minute.
All right, great. Half a day, and I'll try to make this real fast. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Chris, and you, Sabrina, and KUM and the link for allowing this to happen. The new landscape of campaign has made it so difficult for new candidates to get the message out there. It's made it really, really hard. For those who don't know me, I'm John Ananich, and I'm a former police officer, a combat veteran, and currently a small business owner. And I'm running because crime seems to be it's running rampant on Guam, and criminals seem to get a free pass, and I think that needs to change. No more slaps on the wrist for violent criminals, and no more plea deals for sexual predators. We need to change that. We need to make Guam safe again, and we need to ensure that our people are safe, and not only believing that they are, but that we ensure that we bring fear back into the criminal, as opposed to the community being scared of the criminal enterprise.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. I wanted to ask, and Telo, you kind of mentioned a little bit about trust. Some people have lost trust in our elected leaders over the past several months, and that includes the Guam legislature. What do you plan to do if you're reelected, and John, if you're elected, to restore trust? And we'll start with you, John.
John, you have 2 minutes starting now.
Okay, well, I think the trust issue actually goes into this pandemic that we're in right now. We all know that this virus, this corona virus, has affected everybody, and it's proven its ability to take lives. And the trust issue right now is we have a divide because of this pandemic. There's a huge divide. There's people that believe it's nothing more than a common flu, and then there's people that also believe that it's a lot worse than that. And I think the trust issue has to do with the leadership. And basically, the first month that it came out, I understand. We locked down and we try to figure out what's going on till the data comes in. But we've opened up, and we've opened up. We semi-locked down, and and basically, I think the people right now just don't understand what's going on. I mean, if we are gonna truly stop this virus, then we need to do a complete lockdown and get it over with, and pretty much identify where the problem is. But where we're at right now, it's almost where we cannot do a complete lockdown. We need to find out how to coexist and work with it. So there's a huge trust issue, because it's just I don't think the people feel that this has been handled correctly. So this pandemic has caused a divide, and we need to come together as one people to figure this out. If we're going to do a lockdown, then this lockdown completely. If we're going to open and coexist, then let's come together and become creative on ideas how to coexist, and also provide that safety and that stability for our most vulnerable. But we need to figure that out, because I think the time of a complete lockdown has already passed because of what's been going on. And I think the people right now have no idea. What are we doing? Are we trying to handle this pandemic and control this pandemic, or are we trying to open up?
Thank you, John. Senator, you have 2 minutes to respond, starting now.
I think as far as transparency, that's the key right here. If we want to gain the trust of the people, we need to engage them in everything that we do. Oversight hearings on agencies that are doing not a good job, and asking the hard questions. We need to open it up to allow for not just oversights, but to ask questions during oversights and not be muzzled during an oversight, things like that. I mean, if you don't have the opportunity to question somebody's character, or especially if somebody is holding $10 million worth of over $10 million of federal funds, we need to be able to ask the hard questions. And that's what I'll do. I've been doing it, trying to keep the administration on their toes with regards to how they're spending federal funding, and ensuring that the public hears what we have to say as well as the administration. So I think the key word is engaging the community with transparency and let them know what is going on, both on all levels, on the local level, the federal level, all levels. Keep them engaged.
Thank you, Senator.
The governor was given $117 million in CARES Act funding. Although the legislature can't necessarily appropriate federal funding, there is precedence, though, with Senator Amanda Shelton's Zuday Mangafa bill, which eventually became law, in which she managed to, designate that $10 million of the CARES Act funding go to that program. So if you had the ability to appropriate $117 million, where would you appropriate it to?
Well, there's two areas I think that's really important, and that's rebuilding our economy. And I think that PUA has provided to many of the employees who are out of a job, the 80,000 individuals who are out of job. But I think what we need to do is start to rebuild our economy, and that is assisting the businesses out there who've closed, and they're having a difficult time. They need a break. So I would take some of that funding and use it for businesses to keep them up and running, to hold on a little bit longer here. I would use that. Then I would use the money to buy a facility, not a facility, but an apartment building for the homeless, and not just keep putting them in one place. And then if that individual place is not, it's on a lease-to-lease basis. In other words, I'd like to find something more permanent. We've had the opportunity to see what it's like to house individuals in Mighty. Now it's an opportunity for us to purchase, and I know of some apartment buildings that are for sale. This would be a great opportunity to purchase one using this CARES Act money and putting those individuals who are homeless in there, at the same time helping them find a career, training them for a job. So those are the two areas I would like to see that money put into.
Thank you, Senator. John, you have 2 minutes to respond, starting now.
All right. Well, thank you, Sabrina, for that question. Thank you, Chris. That's 17 million. That's one aspect of the CARES Act we're talking about. But there's a lot of unspent money on the CARES Act that most definitely, I share the same sentiments with Senator Telo, that we need to jumpstart our business community and get our economy working again. But with regards to that, especially the homeless, there's a lot of organizations that I've been looking into that they actually have a tiny home community for the homeless, where they bring in the homeless and they deal with the issues. And I think that that's something that's very affordable for Guam. We can do it with the remaining CARES Act funds that we have right now. The tiny home community, it doesn't only address the homeless, the people that don't have shelter, but it addresses them also with their the needs for with their drug addiction and other reasons why they're homeless. Because homelessness is not necessarily just because you're sheltered, or you don't have a shelter. There's a lot of other aspects involved. So I think we need to get that money, and first and foremost, I think we need to jumpstart our economy, get our economy back up and running, and then deal with the homeless issue, and not a temporary type of motel thing, but maybe a government and private sector partnership to work together to do maybe even a tiny home community, so that we can bring in the homeless and get the people that maybe they just need a place to shelter so that they can get back on their feet. Put them into work programs, help them with their addiction. Whatever it is that the reason why they're homeless, we can address it if we just build this community that addresses those homeless needs. So there's a lot more money than $17 million out there that, especially with the CARES Act, that we can probably look into and grab and address those issues. But first and foremost, we need to get our economy back up. We need to get these businesses back open, because it's definitely very detrimental.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
We'll move on to the next question here. During the Leon Guerrero Norio campaign, much was made about their desire to reestablish the Ethics Commission. However, after nearly 2 years in office, that commission has yet to be funded or stood up and remains inoperational. What would you do if reelected or elected to improve the public's ability to report instances of ethical violations to the appropriate people? Senator Telo, you have 2 minutes to respond, starting now.
I was thinking about that when it was in the budget bill and the money that was appropriated for that. And I thought it's kind of funny that you've got the fox guarding the hen house, here when it comes to ethics. I mean, how are you going to provide these certain complaints to individuals who've been appointed by the governor? It makes it very difficult, and I think it's kind of unfair. I think we should revisit the ethics board and how it's comprised, and bring people there who have no invested interest in the administration or the legislature or anybody in politics or government, especially not in government. I think this really needs to be revisited on the ethics. So I look forward to doing that in the 36th Guam Legislature, to see the composition and to make it fair.
Thank you, Senator. John, you have 2 minutes to respond, starting now.
Chris, can you repeat that question? I didn't really catch it. Can you repeat it real quick, please?
Guam Ethics Commission, during the campaign, Leon Guerrero Norio administration, they made a big deal about getting this commission up and running. However, after nearly 2 years in office, it's not up and running. So if elected as a senator, what would you do to improve the public's ability to report ethical violations to the people that need to need to report it to?
Well, apparently, since it's an initiative that they talked about that isn't up and running, the first thing I do as a senator is have a public hearing and get the subject matter experts inside, involved, and on how we can put this together. If it's something that they ran on that is still not that they haven't put it to fruition, then maybe we need more, not only to revisit it, but bring it to light. Let's hold a public hearing. Let's have a public hearing and get the subject matter experts involved, so that we can make a decision, and an educated decision, when you bring the people that know how to handle this situation. So if it hasn't gone into fruition, I think it's something that we need to get the public involved.
Thank you, John. Bree?
Okay, we don't know what's going to happen next year in terms of funding for the government, let's just say. If you had to make decisions on where cuts should be made within the government, where would you cut?
Please be specific.
Yeah.
And you have 2 minutes to respond starting now. Who's going to answer?
We'll start with John.
John, you have 2 minutes starting now.
Okay, I'm having a hard time hearing you guys. It keeps breaking up. So you're saying if we had to cut, where would we cut in the government?
Right.
Okay, right now, Bree and Chris, I think cutting employment right now is only going to be a lot more detrimental to our economy. We already have 40,000 people unemployed. To cut in the government, it's not going to help the situation. What we need to do is we need to find ways and become very creative on reopening our economy. Right now, I don't think we should be looking at putting more people unemployed. We need to look at getting more people, more people back at work, because the fact of the matter is we're not going to really feel what happened with this pandemic till next year or maybe 2 years from now, because the collection that the government believes that they're going to get, they're not going to get because of this lockdown. So I don't think we should be looking at how to cut more people from working, and it'll only hurt our economy a little bit more. We need to look at how to get these 40,000 people employed. So I don't think cutting is an issue right now. It's only going to hurt us more than it's going to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, John. Senator Telo, you have 2 minutes to respond to the question starting now.
Thank you, Chris and Sabrina. The future is going to dictate our economy, and it's going to be very difficult. So as time goes on, I think we're going to have to adjust if the revenues are not coming in as predicted in this budget bill. But I think just because we budgeted a certain amount of money doesn't mean that we should start saving or making cuts. And I think these cuts can be done by merging consolidated agencies into one and sharing resources with each others. I think, of course, no new positions hired at this time. We look at public-private partnerships, to veer away from certain things that the government does on a day-to-day basis, like services in facilities like Parks and Rec. There's quite a bit of area in Parks and Rec that we can outsource on there. But I think, as we move forward every month, it's like the government of Guam should treat this as a paycheck to paycheck. That's what the people in our community are doing, paycheck to paycheck. So we should do the same thing. And if there are areas that we need to cut, we have to make those hard decisions. But I think if we could just build our economy, like John says, we need to build our economy and get it rolling back. But it doesn't mean just because we're building our economy that we have to spend all the money, the government has to spend it. We have to learn to save and live within our means, most especially live within our means.
Thank you, Senator. Next question. Name 3 figures from Guam history or current times that inspire your political views. And we'll go ahead and start with Senator Telo. You have 2 minutes to respond to the question starting now.
3 people in history. Okay, well, I know my Republican Party probably will not like me for this, but, Ben Pangilinan, we were friends before he was a senator, before I was, but he was very inspirational to me, Ben was. Tony Ampinko, on the soft side of, just taking it with a grain of sand. And the third person, do they have to be political? No, right? It could be... Yeah. Thank goodness. Okay. It's not a whole long list on that one, but no. And by the way, with Senator Ben Pangilinan, I was in the 30th Guam Legislature. I had the opportunity to serve with him. And he had such great insight and love for the people of Guam. And that's what instilled in me to love our people and care for them. So, and the last one would probably be my dad, unconditional love. He taught me unconditional love.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. John, you have 3 minutes to respond to the question starting now. Or 2 minutes, sorry.
Okay, I thought you were giving me an extra minute there, Chris.
No fair.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, I actually come from a family of politics, even though I shied away from it for a long time. I would probably have to go with my Cadensu family. The Perez Ogden is the Cadensu Macaca, and Ken Perez was a senator, in our family, and then after him was Senator John Perez Ogden, who everybody knows was definitely a consensus builder and brought everybody together when he got into the legislature. Because we need to understand that when we get in, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. Especially right now, we have definitely got to work for the people. And when we have to make sure that what we do is for everybody. And then probably the third one would I would have to say maybe Carl Gutierrez, Governor Carl Gutierrez. I really when I was growing up, I followed him, and he was definitely a governor for the people, and he took care of the people. So I would have to stay within the family and just say that Ken Perez, my uncle John Perez Ogden, and Carl Gutierrez. They really showed that they're not only consensus builders, but they're people that can get into a legislature regardless of minority or regardless of what the numbers are, and work together and make the people, make it so that the vote is not for a few, but for the majority, for all of Guam.
Thank you, John. Sabrina?
You both mentioned the economy repeatedly. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to explain more specifically and in more detail in 2 minutes, what are your ideas to rebuild the economy, to diversify the economy? And we'll start with you, John.
Yeah, as much as we would like to, diversify the economy and bring other businesses to Guam and help out, I think there's two aspects on Guam or two entities that we really haven't taken advantage of, and that's the agriculture and aquaculture on Guam. What we need to do is, first and foremost, is we need to open. We know that we run on a bipod, which is tourism and the military, federal funds. And I don't know any visitor that will come to Guam, especially if Guam's not even open to its own people. But the two places would be agriculture and aquaculture, and we need to develop it, especially in the aquaculture part, because we actually have a facility. If we invest in it, we can actually do our very first export out of Guam. But it's something we need to look at. Somebody had a great idea to do it, but then it never followed through. And then we also have the cannabis industry. We have a cannabis industry that it started off with medical, but there was no plan. There was never any legislation or anything to show how to do it. And now we have it at recreational. So we have three industries right now that can boost after our economy opens up, that we can actually look into to create more revenue, and that would be the agriculture, the aquaculture, and our cannabis industry. We know we allowed it to be legal, but then that's all we did. We need to set it up. We need to take all the everything we can do to ensure that we profit from it and make it beneficial to us. So there's three industries that aren't really promoted that were set up, and that's the agriculture, aquaculture, and cannabis. I believe that if we can open our community first, allow our businesses to open first, those are three areas that we can focus on and help our economy.
Senator Taitague?
Thank you, John. Senator Telo, you have 2 minutes starting now.
Okay, actually, this could take a long time, because we'll start from the beginning as with regards to it's time to start funding programs to train outside of tourism. We need to retrain our workers in areas as farming, aquaculture, construction, healthcare, teachers, IT. These are areas that we can train, and we need to provide funding for GCC and Guam Contractors Association to help this. So we go in that direction for now. We start training, we start building in those other areas. I've worked at the very beginning with on submarine cables. I've introduced legislation to create a task force on submarine cables. We have many cables coming into Guam, and even today they're building in PD another facility that boosts cables going through Guam. And this is an economy that's friendly, environmentally friendly, because I think if we're going to build any kind of new economy, we have to be conscious of our environment at the same time. Also to be sustainable. So we look at biodegradable, recycling, refurbishing, areas such as this, because we're going to have a difficult time sending out our trash to anywhere else. We're going to have to deal with it right on Guam. So the area of rebuilding on our workforce industry to other areas other than tourism is a start, and then start encouraging and providing incentives to areas in these areas such as farming, IT, construction, teachers, and most especially healthcare.
Thanks, Senator Taitague. One thing that the pandemic has kind of raised awareness about is the need for better mental health care for our island. And I know that during Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, there had been talk about how the numbers had risen, but suicide has been an epidemic on Guam for years now. And so I just want to hear, what are your ideas? What are your plans to improve mental health care for island residents? We'll start with you, Senator Taitague.
Suicide has touched many of our families, and it has touched my family. I had a first cousin who passed away a couple of years ago, and it was very difficult and hard to understand why. It's always the question, why? Did we see the signs? Is there enough programs out in our community to help individuals to do that? I think, Guam Behavioral Wellness is doing a great job. All the initiative, Teresa Ariola out there is really, banging on doors and getting things done, providing all the numbers to call. But I think the government has an opportunity to assist nonprofit organizations. This is a great aspect. Sometimes the government can't do everything or can't do it as well, especially when you're coming under something so sensitive as suicide. And I think that the government needs to provide more assistance to nonprofits so that they can help those in the community. We continue to make it bring awareness about suicide, seeing the signs of an individual, educating our community to reach out to somebody, but definitely, giving them that direction, that path to go down if you're hurting in any way or have concerns. So it's supporting something very important. And yes, you're right, Sabrina, this has been happening way before a pandemic, and it's gotten worse since this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. John, you have 2 minutes to respond to the question starting now.
All right, thank you, Sabrina, for that question, and thank you, Chris. Suicide is Guam is such a small knit community. I'm pretty sure that everybody on Guam has a friend or a family member that has taken their life. As a combat veteran, it happens. So often. I think it's every month I hear that somebody I served with in Afghanistan or somebody in my own platoon, took their life. But we hear it all the time, and it's very apparent. And I hate to be as a matter of fact, but what we need to do is fund it. When we talk about it, everyone brings up the issue about suicide, but nobody funds it. We need to fund the outreach programs. We need to stop talking and start doing. If we fund mental health and we fund these organizations, then that's the only way we're going to stop it. They're working on such a tight-knit budget, and I'm pretty sure the budget was cut again. So in order to help these individuals, especially individuals that need help, and as a combat veteran, we understand that our veterans also are going through some hard times. There's no funding and there's no programs for them. So let's stop talking about it, and let's, as a matter of fact, let's just fund it. Let's give money to where it needs to be, and then let's fund it so that they can do these outreach programs and get out there and hire more people to to actually campaign against it and give the people help that need help. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next question. Lord knows we've seen no shortage of disagreements, fighting, pettiness between the legislature, the executive branch, and even the congressional delegate office. So if re-elected or if elected, what would you do to foster better, more thorough, and more transparent working relationships between the legislature, the governor, and the delegate? You have 2 minutes to respond. We'll go ahead and start with you, John, starting now.
Yes, this. We've seen it, and this is not only a problem that's happening on Guam. We see it nationwide. That there's a divide, and this pandemic has caused even more of a divide. And what we need to do is we need to we need to elect officials that are going to be consensus builders. Like I mentioned before with Senator John Perez Ogden. That's what he was able to do. We need to come in and be consensus builders and work together. We're facing a pandemic. It's unprecedented. This is a time now that and it's not humble times. And it's a time that needs senators to get in there and work together. Because at the end of the day, this is not about a party affiliation. This is about the people. So we need to come together, everybody come together and make those hard decisions, like Telo had mentioned earlier, but make those decisions not for a certain few, but for everybody. So we need consensus builders in there. We need people that, at the end of the day, Chris, this, that, once elected and, God willing, and with the confidence of the people, I get a seat. It's not about party affiliation. It's about doing what's right for everybody. So that's what we need to do. We all need to come together. We all need to realize that we're fighting a virus as one people, not as party affiliation. So we just need to get people elected in there that are willing to work together. And we've seen that. We've seen the divide. So hopefully on the 36, with God's grace and the confidence of the people, I'm allowed to sit in there, and I plan to go in there and be a consensus builder and bring everybody together so that we work together for the common good of everybody, not just a few. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, John. Senator, you have 2 minutes to respond to the question starting now.
That's a perfect world if we could do that. But there are people who won't agree with what your views are or your perspectives. And that's probably, we have to really put in perspective. You should agree to disagree. At least you could have that perspective. But I think, the most important thing is if we're transparent and open and we do things based on what's right for the people and not because it's a political correctness, then I think things will get along a lot better. But transparency is key, most of all. And I think if we just have that transparency, people can make that judgment on their own, whether this particular senator or political leader or, is making the right decision based on what's best for the community, and let it at that. But agree to disagree, and be fair. I think a lot of the arguments happen because the lack of transparency and the lack of fairness for everyone, treating everyone fair. That's when you're coming to trouble. At least my trouble.
Thank you, Senator.
If you're not fair, then I'll bring it up.
Okay, next question. What letter grade from A to F would you give the Leon Guerrero to Norio's administration's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic? We'll go ahead and start with John. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, Chris, thank you for that question. You kind of put me on the spot there, but thank you very much. I'll actually give the very first the first month of this pandemic, I'll give them an A. I would give them an A because they did what they had to do and they locked this down and they needed more data to find out what's going on. And I don't feel that anybody who's in a leadership position deserves anything less than a C. So I would give them a C right now with how they're handling the the economy right now. Because if you're going to do a lockdown, then lock it down, complete lockdown. If you really want to control this virus, because we know that this COVID-19, it needs a host to survive. So when you have a lockdown that's still kind of open, I mean it's almost an open lockdown. It's just kind of like an oxymoron, right? So if you're going to lock it down, then lock it down. If we're going to do 2 weeks, then do 2 weeks across the board, a hard lockdown. Don't have a lockdown, but be selective on who's allowed to open and operate. Because if you're going to do that, then let's open up and let's become creative to coexist. So I would give them an A in the beginning, and I'll give them a C right now because with the information and the way that they're doing this new PCOR 1.5. I mean, I have no idea, but if you're going to lock down, Chris, and breathe, then lock it down. If you really want to control it and do contact tracing, then the only way to do it is to do a complete lockdown. But I think we're beyond that. We need to figure out now how we need to coexist. We need to instead of only losing lives, and then that it's terrible to say that, but we're losing livelihoods as well because of the way it's happened. So I give them an A and a C, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Senator, what letter grade would you give the Leon Guerrero Norio administration's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic? 2 minutes starts now.
I really like how John put this in perspective. Grade them at the beginning and then grade them at the end. That was a good way to start. That's good because, I think it changed on the way, down the line. I don't think an A, I would give them an A, definitely. I mean, I don't think anybody got an A, not even any countries or states should have gotten an A. It's unprecedented what happened and how people are dealing with it. And I think there was a lot of stumbling in the dark on this. But I think at the beginning, I would probably give them a, B minus, for it. But, and that B is because they're trying and you saw them trying. But then as time went by, it just, we weren't getting information. Our questions weren't being answered. Everybody was left in the dark. We had to screen to ask for what's going on. What are they planning on doing? And that's, I believe, the time when, and I think the media, because it was the media that was pushing to get these answers out. And then she came on with her press briefings that were coming on. I think, was it almost daily or weekly? Because now it's been so long that she's had her press briefings and it's sparingly that it stopped. So that B went down to a C, and then when she stopped these press releases, not press releases, but conferences, video Zoom conferences. I think John, I think the C2 went down, but I have to do kind of like a C minus on that one too, because still up to this day, a lot of things have not been put in place. We've been in this for 6 months. You would think, by that time. And let's not forget, before this pandemic happened, we had a summit that was at Pacific Star.
Thank you, Senator.
3-day summit.
Thank you, Senator.
What has happened?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That summit was for the pandemic response plan.
Yeah, that was for the pandemic response plan that they never, it's in a filing cabinet somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
Brief?
Well, we are running out of time. We only have 4 minutes left. So I'll save my question for the next candidates that come on tomorrow.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we can do 4 minutes overtime. Are you guys?
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
I feel like if it's a good one, yeah.
No,
Of course.
I wanted to ask about education, right? 3 priorities we always hear: education, healthcare, and public safety. But what we always also hear is cuts to the Guam Department of Education. And so we've had them on periodically, and they're facing a $15 million cut, from what I understand, just for this current fiscal year. And I guess over a period of time, it's been like $30 million, I want to say. That's what Mark Manjola had told us. We also hear about Simon Sanchez High School. It hasn't been rebuilt. What do if you are elected, re-elected, what will you do to fully fund the Guam Department of Education to the point where we would actually meet the adequate Public Education Act?
You have 2 minutes to respond now. We'll go ahead and start with John.
We're starting with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? As a matter of fact, being I lived in Jigo for a while, and Simon Sanchez, definitely we need to rebuild Simon Sanchez. We need to make sure that we fund that somehow. Through public safety, my platform is public safety, and there's a lot of ways with public safety that we can actually implement some funding into building a new Simon Sanchez. And I also believe that crime prevention through education is number one. But I hate to say this as a matter of fact, also is funding. We got to find it. As an individual, I never walked out of my house, Chris or Bree, and found a bag of cash, just sitting outside. We need to get to work. We need to go and find it. There's money out there. There's programs out there, and I'm pretty sure that if we just go to work and work hard, we can find funding, to start a new school. But most definitely, Simon Sanchez is, out of all the schools on Guam, that is one that needs to be rebuilt. And I have some plans on how to create some funding through public safety for education. And I believe that we have it on my website. I believe we brought it up today. You can probably go and look at it at johnananich.com and see how we're going to integrate public safety and help education. But again, we need to fund it, and we need to. If we don't have the funds, then we got to go and get it. Let's work. Let's go find it, and then let's figure out how to make this happen. But education is number one. That's our future. Our children are our future, and I think any investment, if there's any return on investment, then I think any money spent on our children is a money well spent. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Senator Telo, you have 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you, Chris and Sabrina. Improving public education requires decision makers to find out from not just students, but parents and teachers and administrations on what exactly we should fund when it comes to DOE. We need to look at cost-cutting measures like renewable energy to use, to divert some of the funding that we can on cutting back into DOE for school children. I've been an advocate for charter schools. I'm finding out that we're seeing more of our students testing higher that are coming out of charter schools and implementing, and we're only providing them, not very much money compared to what we're giving to the DOE schools, but it's a different story. I'd like to see us transition more students into charter schools to give them that adequate education that we've been talking about for years. You have students who are one-on-one. And, in the climate that we are in today with teaching not face-to-face, but through internet and online teaching, it's definitely put a different perspective in things. And I think that face-to-face is very important for students to have that inner engagement with each other. But in the meantime, using technology to assist DOE is an avenue that we need to take, because we can actually save some funding going through this. Everybody has taken cuts in the government of Guam, public safety, the hospital, public health. Everybody has to, because of our economy. There's nothing we can do about it, but what we can do is find things in the agency that we can save money on. And like I said, energy, technology are all these areas. And to engage the parents as well with the administrators of DOE.
Thank you, Senator. You guys have 2 minutes for your closing statement. We'll go ahead and start with John. You have 2 minutes to close, John.
All right. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity, Chris and Bree, KUAM, The Link. Thank you, Telo, for being here with me. Thank all of you. And thank you, Guam, for listening. Right now, we need to come together, and we need to elect leaders that are going to be consensus builders and work together for everybody on Guam. The divide, this pandemic has caused such a huge divide, and there's definitely some issues where we're losing lives and livelihoods. I am willing to work, I challenge anybody, if elected, I challenge any of the senators to work along with me and work just as hard as I will work. I'm John Ananich. I'm number 12 on the Democratic side of the ballot, and given the opportunity and your confidence, I'd like to go to work for you, and I'd like to work for the people. So remember me, and I'm not going to humbly ask for one of your votes, because I don't believe that these are humble times. But I'm going to kindly and confidently ask for just one of your votes, number 12 on the Democratic side, and allow me the opportunity to work for you. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter Democrat or Republican. If elected in the 36th, what we do forward and where we go forward here on out is going to be, it has to be for the people, and everything has to be for everybody, not just a certain few. So consider me, and I look forward to the opportunity to work for you and represent the people of Guam. Again, John Perez Ogden Ananich, number 12 on the Democratic side of the ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Taitague.
Thank you to KUAM, the KUAM family, including everybody behind the scenes. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity, and those who are listening this morning. And John, it's a pleasure, always a pleasure to see you and hear what you have to say. I think you'll be a good guy. Okay. It's been an honor to serving the community these past year and a half. As your working senator, I will continue to ask the hard questions and fight for transparency and accountability. In this term, I've introduced legislation that begins the difficult but necessary work in building a safe and modern hospital. Legislation that funded security cameras for public safety, and proposals that respond to economic challenges by advocating for a lower BPT and improving government process for new responsible development. And there's so much more work to do, and if I'm elected to serve you in the 36th Guam Legislature, I stand committed to working just as hard as I have this term. And I humbly ask for your vote of confidence. I'm Telo Taitague, number 11 on the Republican side of the ballot. Si Tusmasi, maraming salamat po. Thank you, Guam, and create a great day.
Thank you, Senator.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Stay
Bye,
safe.
guys.
All right,
Thank you
that's
so
that.
much.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a
Gotta go.
virtual lunch plate for you guys on your way out if you want to grab that. 10:06. Good job, Joe, sir. Good job, Jason Solis, Kengineer, Master Control, most especially to our listeners, viewers, commenters. Here on the link, we did get some pretty interesting comments during these interviews. Bree?
I think thank you.